What family secret do you know that you are not supposed to know? My paternal grandmother hated my mother. One day she called my mom and asked her to come over and pick up a casserole my grandma had made for us. When she got there, my grandmother had shot herself and left a note saying, among other things, that she wanted my mom to find her that way. She was, shall we say, a fucked up lady and one of the meanest people I've ever known. My mom didn't want people to know B/C. She didn't want that kind of attention. My dad didn't want people to know B/C. He didn't want to give my grandma any level of satisfaction. So, it's just me, them and maybe one other person who knows. Everyone else thinks she was just an old lady who was depressed about her recently deceased husband. Was there actually no casserole? Alas, no. Among the many sins committed that day, no casserole was among them. For real though, I can't even process what to think if there was a freshly made casserole. On the note, I wanted you to find me this way, but your casserole is on the stove. My mom lied about how my dad died. Myself and my brother were told he died to cancer. He wrote us each letters of goodbyes, and I still have mine. When I turned 18, the truth came out. He died in a murder-suicide with his wife, stepmom, her lover, who was also his psychiatrist. Turned out his wife was cheating on him with his doctor, and while my dad had some psychological issues, the doctor purposely prescribed him medication that worsened his paranoia. When he found out about the affair, he shot them both and them himself. Edit. For more background, my dad had manic bipolar depression. He was prone to extreme anxiety and paranoia when off the correct medication. I do not know what the medication he was given was, but I do know it made him far worse in his paranoia and manic episodes. His wife, stepmom, is the one that initially had the idea about the doctor prescribing the medication in the first place. When he found all the evidence, his already broken mind completely snapped. He planned the murders and his suicide. He wrote us all goodbyes. I was used as a test dummy to see if my uncle was actually a pedophile. I guess they were suspicious. Instead of doing anything responsible, they set me up. I was only a toddler. They figured since I couldn't remember it wouldn't matter. So they had him babysit me for a couple hours and recorded it. I was never supposed to know, but my aunt spilled the beans by accident to me. I hate to ask, but was he? Yep. But instead of actually having him prosecuted, they just cut contact. My mom drunkenly told me that my grandfather, who has passed, always used to sit with his back against a wall in restaurants, because when he was in the army in the 50s he was gang raped by other soldiers. He would always make sure his back was covered in public for the rest of his life. Sucks to read this. I always sit with my back to the wall as well. I don't pee in public urinals either. Always use the toilet stall with the door closed. It was one of the things my old nan taught me. He got jumped in the bathroom one time. So he told me one time to never leave yourself vulnerable. It stuck with me ever since. I have faint memories from when I was a kid of an aunt on my father's side. I remember her being thin and sad with blonde hair. No one would talk to me about her, and I didn't remember her name until one day the name Karen just hit me. Don't laugh, this was the 70s and Karens weren't really a thing. Neither my older or younger siblings remember her, and no one would talk about her. No pictures, nothing. About 2 years before his death in 2018, I was talking to my grandfather and looking through pictures with him when I found the woman from my memories and asked about her. My father had a sister, Karen. She was born in 1948. When she was a baby, my grandfather took her out to his woodworking shop just to hang out with him while he worked. He sat her on a workbench, turned to grab some tools, and turned around just in time to see her hit the floor head first. He said that he'd remember the sound for the rest of his life, like dropping a watermelon. They took her to the local doctor, but he said he didn't find anything wrong. For the rest of her life, she suffered from debilitating headaches and later, schizophrenia. When she was 26, she called him from a city about 6 hours away, from a payphone. She was sobbing about voices that wouldn't stop talking, and that she couldn't take it anymore. He immediately jumped in his car, and made it there in 4 hours, but the police had already found her dead in her car with a hose running from the exhaust pipe into a window. I'm the only one who seems to know she existed. My mother doesn't remember her, or denies it. My dad passed away. Both grandparents are gone too. But I remember her face and her telling me it was okay to be sad. Grandpa said she was always interested in me. I'm neurodivergent and really struggled with social skills as a child. I think that it made her feel less alone.